Okay. Hi, Diane. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. As we were just talking about, this is your third time on this show, and the last time you were on was November of 2023. So it's been 18 months.
My goodness gracious, how time flies.
Yeah. Do you remember what book you were promoting when you came on the last time?
It was probably Charlie and the Tire Swing. No, lots happened since then.
I know you're primarily a children's book writer. Do you also write adult books?
Young adult historical fiction. I have two out, and they go together. Ruby, about my grandma. The second one is Ruby Takes Chicago. The first one was Rise: A Girl's Struggle for More.
Okay, I remember the Ruby book. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the first show you were on. I don't know. Has it been out that
Yes, we
long?
did promote. We
Yeah.
did promote it. We most certainly did. And what's exciting about Ruby Takes Chicago is so many people asked my publisher, "What happened to Ruby?" And so she said, "You have to write a follow up." So I did, and and that was really exciting. Number one, that people wanted to know because it meant I was doing my job, inspiring people. And number two, um, Ruby taking Chicago was where her dreams really came true and all her hard work. And the purpose of that was really to show people just keep pushing forward. You're going to have ups and downs, but hang in there and have faith, and you can achieve.
I forget now. Ruby was just a young girl.
Yes, back in those days, people graduated from high school at 16, and she was my grandma. And I'm so blessed to have had such a great role model of women in my life. And she wanted to go to college, and most girls born in 1904, they didn't even really want to finish high school. Most of them, they just wanted to get married and so forth. But my grandmother came from a family of nine children, and she really wanted to pursue a career and a family, and so she achieved both.
Okay.
Yay!
I think I do remember something about this story, and I remember we talked about people getting married very young back in those days. Because my
Yes.
grandmother was 16 when she got
Hmm.
married, and everybody thought that was wonderful. And now I think any parent of a 16-year-old would be horrified if.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think the biggest difference, and one of the things I learned with the first book, because what's exciting about writing hysterical fiction is historical. I think I said historical, but anyway, is you have to do so much research to make sure you have it right. And I just really admire historical fiction writers because I did not realize how difficult it was going to be. With that being said, one of the things I learned was that in those days, you were either a child or you were an adult. There was no teenager. The word teenager didn't become a common word until the 1950s. Can you believe that?
Well, actually, I can because I think rock and roll music really helped to identify and separate the teenagers from the children and from the adults. And
That's a
then,
great point.
yeah, and then the 60s just even cemented that in even more. But before
I,
that, I would agree because you had the war, and you had the Depression, and you had the 20s. And, by the time you were, like you said, about 16, you were either working or if you came from the privileged families, you might go to college. But most
right,
people didn't.
right.
Now I don't know what the percentage is now of high school graduates that go on to college, but it certainly has increased from the
Absolutely.
1920s.
Right, absolutely.
So, how many books have you published altogether? Seems like there's
I
a
think I'm
lot of
at
them.
13 now.
Okay. And are any of them series or are they all one off standalones?
That's a great question because Boomer the Curious Bunny, which was the my latest book, it did really well. And so my publisher said we need to turn this into a series. And so we're remaking Boomer the Curious Bunny, and it's a series. So it's about to you can get it out on Kindle right now, and the hard copy and soft copy is coming out this coming April, and it's Boomer Sees the Town. So it's kind of a remake of the first one. Totally different illustrator. I'm really excited where we've taken Boomer and how much he's grown and how adorable he is. I would love for every kid to be able to cuddle up with Boomer. And then there's 2 more stories that are coming out, and they all should be out by the summertime.
What will Boomer find? Is that the new one?
Boomer Sees the Town. So Boomer, he is a curious bunny, and he follows this path, and he discovers all these things that he never seen before, because before he was just staying very close to home. But he followed this path of a runner, and he just made some exciting things and funny things. I tried to write funny things that make children laugh. So, for example, Boomer ends up in a park and water's coming from the ground. He's like, "Oh my gosh, how can water be coming from the ground? Why is it raining, from the ground?" And every single time, kiddos will just giggle and say, "Boomer, it's a sprinkler." And so it really gets the kids to interact. And the other thing I wanted to do as a former educator, especially in elementary and preschool, was it's really important for recall. And so Boomer, he gets homesick and he wants to go home, and he has to recall how he ended up where he did in town. And so all the kids get to help. Okay, first you saw the bird, then you saw this, and then you saw that, until Boomer gets all the way back home and is safe and sound, and the kids get very excited about it. In the meantime, they realize eventually that they are developing comprehension and recall skills.
Why did you start writing children's books? Was there some particular thing that motivated you to do that?
So great question. I've always been a storyteller. And even when I was in the classroom, I would tell stories to the kiddos, especially when it was preschool and kinder. It was just a natural thing to do in circle time. And over the years, I had all these stories that I had built up in my head. And also, as a mama, my husband and I were very good about creating stories and have our children use their imagination too. And then one day I was working out in the garden, and it just hit me that I needed to put these stories to print. And so I finished planting the last flower and came inside and wrote a story, and that was the beginning. Though it took a long time to get published, which is another story all by itself.
Well, everybody has their publishing stories, and I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, that was easy."
Yeah, exactly.
Some people have had 35 rejections, 50 rejections, but they kept going. And eventually they
Right.
found one acceptance letter. And that's all you need is one. It only
All you
takes
need is
one.
one.
Yeah.
What an exciting moment that is.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, what was your first book
My first book
or
was
first
The
published
Little
book?
Girl in the Moon. She's very precious. So she's a moonling. And the purpose of that book was to really inspire um, that we are more alike than different, and we should be kind and love one another. And that's a very important. Um, it's just very important to me. And as a former preschool teacher in kindergarten, well, any classroom that I taught, if a child was just a little bit different, kids sometimes would make fun, and I just would not have that in the classroom. So as a classroom teacher, I was really big on letting the kids know and the parents know, when you walk into my classroom, we're a family, and we're kind to each other, and we work together with each other, and we have to discover things that we like about one another. And so I transferred that into The Little Girl in the Moon.
How many books do you think are going to be in the Boomer the Bunny series?
Excellent question. Well, there's 3 now. And if I'm lucky, I have 2 more in my head. And hopefully, 5. And if all of it keeps going well, 6 or 7. I would love it for Boomer to do as well as Spot. But that is a huge wish, because Spot, I don't know if you know that doggy book. He's so adorable. It's not written by me, of course. He's been around for a long time, but Spot is just amazing. So if Boomer does anything like Spot or Curious George, it'll be,
Curious George, I remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's adorable.
H.E. Ray, I think, was the author.
You think you're right.
Yeah, yeah, I remember those books. Okay, well, Diann, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. This book has been released.
Yes, it's out on Kindle, and the hard and soft copy will be out on April 1st.
Okay, and last question, do you have a website that you want to give
Yes,
out?
I sure do. So it's diannfloydboehm.com. Let me spell that because, of course, it's difficult. DIANNFLOYD, B as in boy, OEHM as in Mary.
Okay.
And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. And best of luck with Boomer and all your other books. Hope they do well.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.